What you're about to hear are not just stories. These are real events that happen to real people, people just like you and me. Tonight, I'm sharing 8 of the most spine-chilling true horror stories ever documented. Stories so disturbing, so unbelievable, that you'll wish they were just fiction. But they're not. Before we begin, make sure you're somewhere safe. Turn on the lights. Lock your doors. Because after tonight, you'll never feel completely secure again. Jessica Collins thought she was living in the perfect neighborhood. Quiet streets, friendly neighbors, the kind of place where people still left their doors unlocked. That was before the visit started. It began on a Tuesday night in October. Jessica woke up at exactly 3:17 a.m., not because of a sound, but because of a feeling. That terrible feeling that someone was watching her. She turned toward her bedroom window, and there it was. A face, pale white, pressed against the glass, staring directly at her. Jessica blinked, and it was gone. The next morning, she found muddy footprints beneath her window, size 12 boots, circling her house over and over again. But this was just the beginning. Night after night, the visitor returned, always at 3:17 a.m., always at a different window, sometimes the kitchen, sometimes the living room, sometimes her daughter's bedroom. Jessica called the police. They found nothing. No fingerprints, no DNA, no evidence except those muddy footprints that appear fresh every single night. The visits continued for 3 months. 3 months of sleepless nights, of checking locks, of jumping at every shadow. Then they stopped. Jessica thought it was over until she found the photographs. Dozens of them slipped under her door while she slept. Pictures of her family taken through their windows over the past 3 months. At the bottom of each photo, a handwritten note, soon. Jessica moved her family out that same day. The house has been empty ever since, but neighbors say on quiet nights, you can still see a figure standing at the windows, waiting. David Martinez received his first call at 11:43 p.m. on a Sunday night. The voice on the other end was barely a whisper, raspy, like someone who hadn't spoken in years. Is this heaven? David hung up immediately. Wrong number, obviously. But the calls kept coming. Every night, same time, same voice, same question. Is this heaven? After a week of calls, David decided to respond. No, he said. This isn't heaven. You have the wrong number. There was a long pause, then laughter. Cold, hollow laughter that made David's skin crawl. I know exactly who I'm calling, the voice whispered. I've been watching. David Martinez, 1247 Oak Street Blue Honda, works at Fletcher Insurance. David's blood turned to ice. He'd never given his name, his address, any personal information. Who is this? David demanded. Someone who died in your house 50 years ago. The line went dead. David researched his property records the next day. Sure enough, in 1973, a man named Harold Grimm had died in David's house. Suicide, they said, found hanging in what was now David's bedroom. The calls continued, but now they were different. Harold would describe David's daily routine, what he wore to work, what he ate for dinner, who he talked to. I'm still in the house, David, Harold whispered during one call. I never left, and soon you won't either. David installed security cameras, changed his phone number. Nothing worked. Harold always knew the new number within hours. The final call came on a Thursday night. David answered, but this time, he heard his own voice speaking back to him. Is this heaven? His own voice asked. David looked in his bathroom mirror and saw Harold Grimm standing behind him, smiling, David Martinez was found the next morning, hanging in his bedroom, in the exact same spot where Harold Grimm had died 50 years before. 16-year-old Emma Thompson thought babysitting the Henderson kids would be easy money. Two well-behaved children, a nice house in the suburbs. What could go wrong? Everything. It started when she put the kids to bed at 8:30. As she was reading them a story, little Tommy looked up at her with wide eyes. "Miss Emma," he whispered, "why is that man watching us from the closet?" Emma turned toward the closet. It was closed, but she could swear she saw shadows moving underneath the door. "There's no one there, Tommy," she said. "It's just your imagination." But Tommy shook his head. "He's been there all week. Mommy and Daddy can't see him, but we can. He only comes out when the grown-ups are sleeping." Emma checked the closet. Empty. Just clothes and toys. She tucked the children in and went downstairs to watch TV. That's when the phone rang. "Have you checked on the children?" a man's voice asked. "Who is this?" Emma demanded. The line went dead. Emma ran upstairs. The children were sleeping peacefully, but Tommy's closet door was now wide open. She closed it and went back downstairs. 5 minutes later, the phone rang again. "You really should check on the children," the same voice said. "I'm getting closer." Emma's hands were shaking as she called the police. They told her they'd send a car, but it would take 20 minutes. She went to check on the kids again. This time, she found something that made her blood freeze. Muddy footprints, leading from the closet to Tommy's bed and back to the closet. The phone rang one more time. "I'm upstairs now," the voice whispered. Emma grabbed both children and ran to her car. As she was pulling out of the driveway, she looked back at the house. In Tommy's bedroom window, a man was standing, waving goodbye. The police found evidence of someone living in the attic for weeks. Food wrappers, blankets, and dozens of photographs of the family taken from inside the house. They never found him. Marcus Williams found the perfect apartment. Downtown location, affordable rent, too good to be true. It was... The landlord, Mrs. Chen, seemed nervous during the tour. She kept glancing at the bedroom door, like she was expecting someone to walk out. The previous tenant left suddenly, she explained. Personal reasons. Marcus didn't think much of it. People move all the time. His first night in the apartment, he heard typing. Loud, constant typing coming from the bedroom above his. But when he checked with Mrs. Chen the next day, she looked confused. "Mr. Williams," she said slowly, "your apartment is on the top floor. There's nothing above you except the roof." That night, Marcus listened more carefully. The typing wasn't random. It had a rhythm, like someone writing a story. He used a broom handle to knock on the ceiling. The typing stopped immediately, then started again, louder and faster. Marcus decided to investigate. He found the building's maintenance ladder and climbed onto the roof. Above his bedroom, there was a small ventilation grate. He peered through it and nearly fell off the roof. Someone was in his bedroom. A thin man in an old suit, sitting at a typewriter that wasn't there when Marcus left. The man looked up directly at Marcus and smiled. "Hello, neighbor," he said. "I've been waiting for you." Marcus climbed down and burst into his apartment. The bedroom was empty, but on his bed was a piece of paper. Typed on it was a single sentence, "You're gonna love living here forever." Marcus packed his things that night. As he was loading his car, Mrs. Chen appeared. "You're leaving already?" she asked. "Just like the last tenant, and the one before him, and the one before him." "How many people have lived in that apartment?" Marcus asked. Mrs. Chen was quiet for a long moment. 7 people in 2 years. They all left the same way, in the middle of the night, looking terrified. Marcus drove away without another word. A week later, he saw his apartment listed for rent again. The ad read, "Perfect for writers. Very quiet. Includes vintage typewriter." Tom Bradley met her on a dating app. Her name was Victoria, and she was absolutely stunning. Dark hair, piercing blue eyes, the kind of beauty that seemed too perfect to be real. The first date was magical. Dinner at an upscale restaurant, great conversation, chemistry that felt instant and intense. "I feel like I've known you forever," Victoria said as they walked to her car. Tom felt the same way. They planned their second date for the following weekend. But something strange happened when Tom got home. He found Victoria's purse on his kitchen counter. She must have left it by accident, but Tom couldn't remember her being in his kitchen. They'd gone straight from the restaurant to her car. He called her number. No answer. Tom decided to return the purse personally. The address on her driver's license led him to an old cemetery on the outskirts of town. He thought he'd written it down wrong until he saw the headstone. Victoria Mason, born 1987, died 2019. "Beautiful girl," a voice said behind him. Tom turned to see an elderly groundskeeper. "Car accident. Real tragedy." I just went on a date with her," Tom stammered. The old man's face went pale. "Son," he said quietly, "you're the fifth person to tell me that this year. Victoria's been buried here for 5 years, and she keeps showing up on dates." Tom looked at the purse in his hands. Inside, he found dozens of business cards from restaurants all over the city and photos. Dozens of photos of different men, all looking happy and in love. All the photos were taken at the same restaurant where Tom had dinner with Victoria. His phone buzzed. A text message from Victoria: "Had such a wonderful time tonight. Can't wait to see you again, forever." Tom never responded to the message. He threw away his phone and moved to another state. But sometimes, late at night, he still gets calls from an unknown number. When he answers, all he hears is a woman's voice whispering, "Tom, why did you leave me? I thought we had something special." When Robert Miller inherited his great-uncle's house, he thought his financial problems were over. The house was worth a fortune, and Uncle Eugene had left it to him free and clear. There was just one condition in the will. Robert had to live in the house for 1 full year before he could sell it. It seemed reasonable enough. The house was beautiful. Victorian architecture, original hardwood floors, the kind of place that belonged in a magazine. But Uncle Eugene had lived alone for 40 years and the house felt occupied. It started with small things. Doors that Robert remembered closing would be open when he came home. Lights would be on in rooms he never used. Food would disappear from the refrigerator. Robert assumed he was just forgetful. New house, new routine. It made sense. Then he found the journals. Hidden in the basement were dozens of notebooks, all written in Uncle Eugene's handwriting. The entries went back 40 years, documenting strange occurrences in the house. "They don't like visitors," one entry read. "Every time someone stays overnight, something happens. I've learned to live with them, but I'm not sure Robert will." Another entry. "Found Sarah's belongings in the attic again. She's been dead for 30 years, but she still thinks this is her house." And finally, "I'm getting old. Soon I'll join them. I hope Robert understands. The house comes with residents. We're all family here." Robert felt sick reading the journals. Who was Sarah? Who were they? He got his answer that night. Robert woke up to the sound of footsteps in the hallway. Slow, deliberate footsteps that stopped right outside his bedroom door. The doorknob turned slowly, and Robert saw her. A woman in a white nightgown, her face pale and gaunt, staring at him with hollow eyes. "You're in my room," she whispered. Robert couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. I'm Sarah, she continued. I used to live here, before Eugene, before you. This will always be my house. More figures appeared behind her. Men and women of different ages, all wearing clothes from different time periods, all staring at Robert with the same hollow expression. Welcome to the family, Uncle Eugene's voice said from the back of the group. I told you the house came with residents. Robert ran. He grabbed his keys and ran straight to his car, still in his pajamas, and drove until he couldn't drive anymore. The house is still in his name. According to the will, he has 11 more months before he can sell it. But Robert knows the truth now. No one ever really leaves that house. They just become part of the family. Ashley Morgan was desperate for a roommate. Rent in the city was crushing her, and the classified ads were full of creeps and weirdos. Then she met Jamie. Jamie was perfect. Clean, quiet, always paid rent on time, never had guests over. Ashley couldn't believe her luck. For 3 months, everything was great. Ashley barely saw Jamie, which was fine with her. They had different schedules, different social circles, different lives. But then Ashley started noticing things. Her food would be rearranged in the refrigerator. Her clothes would be in different positions in her closet. Her bathroom items would be moved, just slightly, but enough to notice. Ashley assumed Jamie was just OCD. Some people were particular about organization. Then she found the photos. Hidden under Jamie's mattress were hundreds of pictures of Ashley, sleeping in her bed, showering, changing clothes, eating breakfast, all taken without her knowledge. Some of the photos were dated from before they'd even met. Ashley confronted Jamie that evening. I found your photos, she said. This is sick. You need to move out. Jamie just smiled. Ashley, she said calmly, I think you're confused. This is my apartment. You're the one who needs to leave. That's insane, Ashley said. I signed the lease. My name is on everything. Jamie walked to the kitchen drawer and pulled out a lease agreement. Ashley's hand shook as she read it. The lease was in Jamie's name? All the utilities, all the documents, everything was in Jamie's name? But that's impossible, Ashley whispered. I've lived here for 2 years. Jamie's smile grew wider. Have you? Or have I just been very good at making you think you have? Ashley ran to her bedroom to pack her things, but her belongings were gone. Her clothes, her photos, her personal items, all gone. In their place were Jamie's things, arranged exactly like Ashley's had been. You can stay if you want, Jamie called from the living room, but this time you'll be the guest. Ashley left with nothing but the clothes on her back. She tried to go to the police, but when they checked the apartment records, there was no record of Ashley Morgan ever living there. According to every official document, Jamie had lived there alone for 5 years. Ashley still doesn't know who Jamie really is or how she managed to erase every trace of Ashley's existence. But sometimes, late at night, Ashley drives by the apartment building. In the window of what used to be her home, she can see Jamie taking pictures of the new roommate. Dr. Rebecca Hayes was a skeptic. As a psychiatrist, she'd heard every ghost story, every supernatural claim, every unexplained mystery her patients could imagine. She didn't believe any of it. That changed when she inherited her grandmother's house. The house came with a strange request in the will: never read the book in the basement. Some stories are too dangerous to know. Rebecca laughed. Her grandmother had always been dramatic, always believing in old superstitions and folklore. But curiosity got the better of her. In the basement, Rebecca found a single book on an old wooden shelf. It was leather-bound, handwritten, entitled The True History of Elm Street. Rebecca opened it and began to read. The book contained detailed accounts of every person who had ever lived on Elm Street, their births, their lives, their deaths, and their secrets. But these weren't just historical records. The book described events that hadn't happened yet, deaths that were still to come, tragedies that were waiting to unfold. Rebecca found her own entry near the end of the book. Dr. Rebecca Hayes will inherit her grandmother's house on October 15th. She will read this book despite being warned not to. She will learn the truth about Elm Street, and she will become the next keeper of the stories. The entry continued. Rebecca will try to destroy the book, but the book cannot be destroyed. It will write itself as it always has, as it always will. The stories must be preserved. Rebecca slammed the book shut, but when she opened it again, new pages had appeared. Her own story was being written in real time as she lived it. Rebecca is reading about herself, the new pages said. She is beginning to understand that some stories create themselves. Rebecca tried to burn the book. The matches wouldn't light. She tried to tear out the pages. They wouldn't rip. She tried to throw it away, but it always reappeared on the shelf. Finally, Rebecca understood. She was never meant to destroy the book. She was meant to continue it. Now, every night, Rebecca sits in the basement writing new stories in the book. Stories of the people who live on Elm Street. Stories of the tragedies that are coming. Stories that will come true whether she writes them or not. The book writes itself, but it needs a keeper. Someone to hold the pen. Someone to be responsible for the stories. Rebecca's grandmother had been the keeper for 60 years. Before her, it was someone else, and before that, someone else. Now it's Rebecca's turn. And someday, when Rebecca is old and tired, she'll pass the house to someone else, someone curious, someone who won't listen to warnings about dangerous books. The stories must continue. The truth must be preserved, even if that truth is too terrible to know. This concludes our journey into the darkest corners of reality. 8 true stories, 8 real events, 8 reminders that sometimes the most terrifying tales are the ones that actually happened. Sleep well tonight, if you can. And remember, some stories are still being written.